Welcome to the FPLUSA Press Play podcast. We are the audio home of the hashtag FPLUSA community. I'm Bux. I'm joined by my partner in crime. I got FPL_Blackwolf here, aka Dan. Dan, how the hell are you, man?
I'm doing good, thank you, Bux. How are you?
I'm great. Now, I think we should just address the elephant in the room right
Yes.
here at the start because we were hoping to be a very frisky trio tonight. We are going to welcome Paz, who's one of the great content creators and a good friend of the pod, back onto our humble show. But I think he found better plans. He might have found two sexier co-hosts to be hanging out with tonight. Is that true?
I mean, I think you're being very, very kind to him. Paz, I know you're going to listen to this. You're an asshole for flaking on us.
Yeah, he shanked on us last minute to go watch the Miami Heat. That's not even like a real top bin franchise at the moment. That's like ditching us to go watch Manchester United. No excuse. That's bullshit.
Unacceptable. And we're going to troll him the whole pod because of this.
Absolutely. This is, you reap what you sow, Paz. We still love you, but tonight, less so. Much less so. So with that, we also want to just address that our third co-host, Brian, is traveling. He's going to be in Australia the entire rest of this week. He's actually doing a small meetup. So if you find yourself down under and you like some Premier League and you want to get together with Brian, reach out to us on social media. He's going to be getting together with some of the mini league friends and managers that we have out there. I think he's going to be together with like 7 or 8 lads watching game week 10 go down, specifically that Manchester United Chelsea match. So if you want a free beer and you find yourself around Australia, shout out to us. Let's see if we can hook you up with Brian to get together for some early morning footy on the other side of the world.
Yeah, according to Brian, anyone that shows up will get 5 free beers on him. I heard that,
Yes.
didn't you, Bux?
Yeah, I saw him say that. I thought he was saying at least one free espresso martini as well. It's not like he's a recent homeowner or anything. He's got plenty of available funds.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
he travels every single month
yeah.
somewhere elaborate.
He's the Chinternational man of mystery, as we like to joke in our mini chats. But Brian, right now, he's also spoiled for points. He's absolutely kicking the two of our asses so far through 9 game weeks of the season. He lands on 69 points in game week 9. He's all the way up to 285,000 in the world. Now, of course, we don't dwell much on ranks at this point in the season, but safe to say Brian is having a very solid start to this season.
Yeah, and I mean, he had a terrible start last season. I know he was suffering for a long, long time. So he deserves to have some success this season, I feel.
Yeah, but it's almost coming good. It's enough of Brian gloating and us being more bound. So I'm actually the bottom of the totem pole this week. I land on 58 points. I just about secured a red arrow, more or less a green dot. Pretty disappointing game week, but I do have to say I feel vindicated because I only regular captained Erling Haaland. And I know I look up at your score and I see you use the triple captainship. So let me give you a little corner for some therapy right now, Dan. How'd you do in game week 9?
I finished on 61 points. It was looking really good on the Saturday. My rank went up 1.5 million places and I was looking really good. But then Sunday happened and I don't have Salah, I don't have Palmer. I had double Arsenal and double Liverpool defense because of my auto subs and injuries. And I thought, you know what, best case scenario, maybe I'll get 8 points from the 4 of them. And I ended up with 3 points from the 4 of them because of Raya yellow card, because Gabriel went off injured. It was just a disaster. And yes, I also used my triple captain on Haaland, which if you look at the data and if you watched the game, was actually a very good decision because he had so many chances. We'll talk about it later, but he had so many chances. He could have easily had 4 goals that game. So to come away with 6 points, not even bonus points, is pretty disastrous. Having said that, to me, the triple captain chip is the least important chip out of all of them. I never get points from that chip anyway, and I've still had decent ranks. So it's no big deal in the grand scheme of things. It's just a little annoying when you're sitting at 3.2 million in the world.
Yeah, of course. You have a lot of complaints, and I think most of them are valid. So I'm not going to shush you on that front. And yes, Holland, his he's normally one of the best finishers in the world. He was not in the Southampton game. It was very a bizarre performance from him, to say the least. Hopefully, that means there will be more finishing down under when you're drinking with Chin. That way, you could all finish your beverages on our third podcast host's wallet and his dime. With that, let's glow up a manager who did not miss any chances in game week 9. That is the manager of the game week in our free press play premiership pod league. Now, Bill Will is the name of the team, managed by Belyal Gaziev. I'm sorry that you have to suffer through my pronunciation here, but you did not suffer this game week with 96 freaking points. Holy cannoli. Dan, read off the list of people who had big returns for Bill Will.
96 points, that's insane. He had Salah captain for 20 points. He had Mbumo like the rest of us with 15. Palmer with 10. Chris fucking Wood with 13. This guy just constantly returns every week. Danny Welbeck with 7. After he came back from that back injury, he got the goal against Wolves. He has Gvardiol for 9. That guy has just been... Not owning him is a nightmare. I don't think you own him either. It's just a nightmare. He just trolls us every single week. And then he also had Nico Jackson, which I know you have too, so you're probably very happy about that.
I was, but I don't have Salah, Saka, Palmer, or Gvardiol. And it kind of feels like the last couple game weeks now, they've just each been taking turns beating me left, right, and center down these ranks. I know you're in a similar boat. This has definitely been the most challenging season in my fantasy Premier League career. I know this is my 5th season. Dan, you've been playing much longer. Any kind of initial reactions to this new season and the new format?
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, it takes a bit of a hit on the mental health for some people, including myself at times. You know, I've been going through some health issues, so it definitely hits on the mental health when not only your FPL team is doing bad, but your actual team, Wolves in my case, is doing bad as well. But I think, you know, you have to take a little bit of a break. You have to look at yourself and say, hey, this is just a game. It doesn't really matter. There's still like 30 game weeks left. There's still more than enough chances to pull it back. It's just, you know, it just brutally hits you every week. The variance has been insane. Even players like I have Eze, for example, he got 6 points this week, finally. But if you watched that game, he could have easily ended that game with 15. It's just the variance is just hitting some people really, really hard. I know there's a lot of really good managers out there. You have Zoff from FPL Wire, you have FPL Salah. These are managers who are usually elite managers who finish in the top 10k consistently. They're lower ranked than I am right now in the 4 millions. So it's a very brutal season.
Yeah, plus you have not elite managers like Paz who are doing well. So it's just results checkered across the board right now. And like an upset toddler who hasn't yet had its snack, we're going to throw the board on the ground, smash the pieces everywhere. We'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll dive into the action from game week 9.
And we are back, and I think we should start, Bux, with the breaking news that came out today just before we started recording, that Manchester United have finally sacked their bald-headed fraud, Erik ten Hag, and reports are suggesting that they're going to bring Ruben Amorim from Sporting straight in as a replacement. So how do you feel about that?
I hate the timing because I was really enjoying and looking forward to this weekend when Chelsea get to play Manchester United. They're in absolute shambles. And I was thinking that this fraud would still be in charge and leading a group of unmotivated players. But unfortunate for me and my Chelsea Blues, it seems like it might be a totally different building when we travel there this weekend for that match. And Ruben Amorim, I think, is one of the best coaches in world football. He's been leading Sporting Lisbon for some time now, and he turned down some other high-profile roles over the summer. And so I think this could be a fantastic hire for a long term, as well as just instilling a culture of success and high expectations. I don't think Sporting dropped a match thus far in their league campaign in Portugal. And I know they're flying right now, having a really strong start to the Champions League campaign. So let's just say Manchester United are not anywhere close to that right now. So he will have a huge job in front of him should he take over and be running things going forward at Old Trafford. But it's exciting for any Manchester United fans for sure.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good hire for them, long term at least. I don't think you have anything to worry about in the short term. I think Chelsea are finally a very, very, very good team. I think they can beat anyone on their day. I wouldn't be surprised if they comfortably get third place in the Premier League, possibly even second. I'm that high on them right now. They look very, very good.
Come to the dark side, Dan.
Yeah. So I don't think you have anything to worry about. Manchester United in a couple of weeks have a very nice run coming up for FPL. The likes of Ipswich and Leicester back to back. So no, I think it might be sooner rather than later that their assets become people we're looking at again. But who knows? I'm not going there anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away using a 10-foot pole, and then I'll cork you onto the end of that. So make the pole like, 14 feet all in.
It would be nice to see players like Bruno Fernandes becoming legit options again, though. At his price point, if he becomes the asset he was a few seasons ago, he's going to be a game breaker.
Totally agreed. There's lots of potential there. But right now, it seems like everyone's enjoying kicking United when they're down. So much so that VAR, I think this was the straw that broke the camel's back in regards to Ten Hag. I mean, that was not a penalty. Are we in agreement there? That was made up gobbledygook from the VAR room because there was no penalty given on the field. And it honestly just looked like an honest play where De Ligt just runs into Ings because his eye was on the ball, not on the player. That was definitely not a penalty in my eyes.
In my opinion, that was never, ever, ever a penalty. And the annoying thing is the referee didn't give it as a penalty, like you said. So it goes to VAR. Now, VAR are supposed to only overturn these decisions if it's clear and obvious. And in my mind, that was far from clear and obvious. If anything, it was clear and obvious that it wasn't a penalty, and yet they overturned it. So there's some sketchy shit going on there.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Now, I will say, just as the last word on United, this is kind of tribute, maybe karma for that situation they had at the start of last season with Wolves. Because I remember they had that not penalty. That was a clear penalty that was not given on Onana when he just absolutely clattered into one of the Wolves players. So you win some, you lose some for the Old Trafford faithful. But I think all in all, this is really good news long-term for Manchester United fans. Finally, something to be excited about with potential new blood at the leadership and a new philosophy about how this team can actually get back towards being a successful and a well-run team. I think that's kind of good news with the change of leadership.
I agree. Now, moving on to the next game, we had the very first game of the game week on the Friday. Leicester 1, Nottingham Forest 3. And I don't know about you, Bux, but that kind of put a damper on the whole weekend straight away from the first game after Chris Wood got 13 points, 2 goals and 3 bonus points. As well as
and he could have gotten more. Dan,
he could have. He could have.
Jesus. Chris Wood, he's the lad down under right now. Move aside, Brian Chin. No one cares about you. Chris Wood is the one really doing the business. And right now, he's poking me in the eye. He's so hard right now. He's so hard on goal. It hurts.
I was wondering if you were going to throw in a wood joke there. This guy.
I'm basically a 12-year-old in, a dad's grown-up body. So, yes, that was, of course, entering the chat.
Yes. His ownership is not crazy high, so it doesn't hurt you really, really bad, but it's high enough that it does knock your rank down quite a lot when he gets points. Even Vardy got 8 points, a goal and 2 bonus points. His ownership is a little higher than I realised. So for those two players to come away with 21 points combined was a bit of a disaster to start the game week for anyone that didn't own them. And not only that, Sowers got the assist for the Wood goal, and Sowers is not a lowly owned goalkeeper either, so...
That was bullshit. That was
bullshit.
More shenanigans. But I will say that, this is starting to be a trend the last couple game weeks we're really seeing that these budget enabler forwards are doing the business in a big way, and they're scoring points well outsized of what their price is in the FPL game. I mean, Chris Wood, I know he's not. I know Haaland is the best goal scorer in the league, but Chris Wood is firing on all cylinders, and he's becoming really hard to ignore because Forest, they might just be a good team, a solid team. They're very direct. They know who they are. And Chris Wood, everything's designed to flow through him. So I've been really impressed with what Nuno is putting together there and the campaign that Wood is having. He's taking good form into the Premier League season. He's bringing it home for Australia, and he's bringing it right back to England. Kind of each game week in and out, he's doing the business. I'm impressed.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but Nuno is just such a good manager. He has a system that he uses, and it just works everywhere he goes. He's kind of turned Chris Wood into what Raul Jimenez was when he was playing for Wolves, just like this focal point in the attack. Everything goes through him. He's a great finisher. He just knows how to get his teams playing and to bring the best out of his players. So fair play to them. It's annoying, but it is what it is.
It is, and it can be boring for especially for opposition fans. But listen, the Premier League is not all about just going out and playing like an Ange ball style, going to try and beat your teams, the opposition 4-5-3 or 4-5-4, right? That's not really what's been true and repeatable as a Premier League successful strategy. And what Nuno does just seems to work. Again, it's not flashy, it's not sexy, but when you have a true number 9 leading the line in great scoring form, it's hard for them to drop points right now because they just feel like they're getting 1 or 2 really good chances every match. So they're always getting, at least 1 goal, if not several. So I think they're a legit team. And right now, they are one of those teams that are currently on the FDR in a totally different way than what that match is in reality.
I tell you what, their defense is hugely underrated by FPL managers this season. If you look at the table, actually it's only Liverpool who have conceded less goals than they have. They've only conceded 7 goals in 9 games. Exactly, again, what Nuno did at Wolves. He just turns them into just this unbreakable team. They're so hard to break down. So yeah, like you said, while it's not pretty for the most part, it works. They're sitting in 7th place. They have +4 goal difference. They're only 2 points behind Arsenal. I didn't realize that until I checked today.
I saw that. I might have messaged that over to one of our mini league chats just to do some trolling. But speaking of unbreakable, let's talk about the team at the top of the table. That's Manchester City. They win 1-0, but it seemed like the Southampton goal had an unbreakable force field on it based on some of the chances that Haaland was blowing down the stretch of that game.
I mean, his XG in this game was 2.33, which is insanely high. I think that's his highest of the season, and I think it's one of the highest ever, if I read that correctly, in a single game.
Yes, so exactly.
So for him to come away with 1 goal and no bonus is just a disaster for triple captainers.
Like it's bad, right? It's bad when there's a winger on City who doesn't get an assist, doesn't get a goal, and is stealing bonus points from Haaland. That's how it's entered some pretty uncharted territory for the big lad.
Yeah, I mean, Savio got the free bonus points, like you said, to finish on 6 points. That's because he created chance after chance after chance for Haaland, and he just kept missing them. But those go down as big chances created for Savio, which just is a monster for bonus points. I know we have Connor, who has Savio, so he must be annoyed as a Haaland captainer and a Savio owner that he didn't come away from that game with 40 points.
Agreed. That's FPL_Hunt, who's featured on this podcast before. Now, one player who has not been leaving points on the table, that's Josko Gvardiol. And I know I'm a Rico Lewis owner, and I also brought in Phil Foden. So now I'm stuck on a very clearly suboptimal Manchester City triple up right now because Gvardiol, he's either getting a goal or he's getting a clean sheet and 3 bonus points pretty much every match out. So he gets 9 points today. Lewis and Foden combined for 9 together, but that's not math that's working in my favor from an FPL points perspective, to say the least.
And Gvardiol has actually risen to 6.2 million now too. So he's one of the most expensive defenders in the game. He's hard to get to, especially if you already own Lewis and Foden like you do. So
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth a double swap, but he's definitely a player that is on my Christmas list. Let's leave it at that.
yes, and he kind of ruins watching City games for me because I'm just terrified he's going to get a goal in every single game. Anyway, next up, let's go to Brentford. What a game that was. 4-3 against Ipswich. And for me, I bought in Wisa this week. So it was one of the first times this season where I brought in a player and he
Jealous.
actually did the business for me. So I've got the Mbumo and Wisa double up. So after that game, I was incredibly happy. Wisa could have also got 2 goals if the defender hadn't touched it before it went in, but he came away with 10 points and Boomer came away with 15 points. 25 points between the two of them. I mean, Brentford have a very, very good run coming up. I don't know about you, Bux, but in my opinion, Mbumo is the best FPL asset in the entire game in terms of points per million.
Totally agreed. I think he's found money in your couch cushions, in your pocket when you bring your pants out of the laundry. It's like a joy owning him in your FPL team. And when he's fit, I feel like he just gets a return every game at least. And he always has that explosive potential. Uh, I'm actually considering he might be my captain for game week 10. But
Yeah.
we'll surely talk about that later in the episode. This might
You
have
know,
been
if just to add quickly, if Haaland for some reason, I don't know, got sick and didn't turn up for that Southampton game, I would have had triple captain and Boomer because he was my vice captain. That went through my head.
You could dream. You could dream. That was definitely the most exciting match of the game week. I mean, there was red cards, 7 goals. It was crazy. But I think let's bring it a little closer to home for you, Black Wolf, because Wolves played in a not at all boring match, especially for neutrals. I imagine you were biting through your nails and, tearing at the sides of your couch. Brighton go up 2-0, but Wolves leave it late and they claw all the way back to get the point. 2-2. This was an awesome game.
Yeah, that was a really exciting game. I went crazy that last 10 minutes. I'm telling you, I just lost it on my couch. I think I must have threw coffee everywhere.
I was thinking about FaceTiming you, but I didn't want to distract from what was going on the pitch. And I'm sure maybe it would have been even noisier in your home with me in the mix. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Now, who enjoyed the FPL points and what did you see here? Is this a turning point for Wolves? They going to start to finally come good?
I hope so. I mean, they have the fixture run coming up now. Our next game is Crystal Palace at home. That's a must-win game for us, and that will really show if we have what it takes to stay up in this league. I strongly believe we do, but we have to prove it. The star of this game was Mateus Cunha. He got 9 points and 1 goal and all 3 bonus points. The thing about Cunha is he is just such an outstanding player. He does so much for the team. His chances created, his duels that he wins, the shots that he has that are on target. He's a bonus points monster. So if he gets a goal, he tends to get the 3 bonus points. I know
I think he had 4 big chances in this match.
Yeah,
he was everywhere.
Yeah. I've had a lot of questions, as you must imagine, about Wolves lately. And in my opinion, Cunha is by far our best asset at 6.5 million. In second, I would put Ryan Aitnery, who, by the way, scored another goal for Wolves to come away with 6 points. Even though he conceded 2, he got his 5th attacking return of the season. So he got 6 points from that game. And in third place, I would put Strand Larsen, who is 1 million less than Cunha. But I think with that extra 1 million, you get the penalties, most likely. You get guaranteed starts and 90 minutes. You get the better player. You get more routes to points. So I really think Cunha is the better option. But Strand Larsen is a very valid option if you use that 1 million wisely elsewhere. Like if you need that 1 million to get someone like Palmer, then it's a no-brainer. But in isolation, Cunha is an amazing asset, and he's my favorite attacker under 7 million right now.
Oh, I like that. I think for me, looking at this Wolves team, maybe I'm biased because I've had and enjoyed good times with Ronaldo Aitnouri in the past. Sweet. That being said, I think from my eyes, Cunha seems to be the only player that I would really venture to go for and be, feeling urgent about making a transfer for Wolves. I know you disagree. You're in a little deeper with the team than I am. But I think Cunha is he jumps off the page. He is a top quality finisher, and he is the engine of your attack. So I feel like if Wolves are going to be scoring 2, 3 goals, he's going to find his way into at least one of those returns.
Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree with you at all, actually. I think Ryan Aitneri, I know he's got 5 attacking returns, but you're kind of relying on him to get those returns to get points. Because if he hadn't scored that goal in the 85th minute, he was going to be on 0 points. I don't think that's going to be uncommon. I think we're going to concede most games. So you're really relying on him getting a goal and assist to get the points. There's not many better options at 4.5 million, but I wouldn't say he's essential by any
I
means that
agree.
some people are calling him. And just
I
as a
agree.
word of warning, he's on 4 yellow cards. So there's every chance that he gets a yellow card against Crystal Palace at home this weekend, and then he misses Southampton at home.
Oh,
So
that would be a disaster for FPL managers, but that feels like the pain that many are experiencing over the course of this season. Now, speaking of pain, another cheap defender who has been doing pretty well, Lewis Dunk, he goes off injured, and there are reports coming back he might miss the entirety of November, maybe even past that next international break. This could be really disastrous for Brighton defense. I know, unfortunately, I'm invested as a Verbruggen owner. So I'm really hoping that Flappy Hands Fabianski, my backup option, might start once again for West Ham, because I might need a life raft there with Brighton playing against Liverpool in game week 10. That could get ugly real fast.
are you going to start Fabianski instead of Verbruggen this week in the hope
I,
that he
I think
plays?
I think so. I think so. But I'll be doing it expecting the worst. I expect maybe he'll be back to being benched, and
Yeah, maybe.
Verbruggen, he'll probably end up getting like a Mo Salah penalty save just to really spite me.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I would probably still start Verbruggen. If anything, he's going to get a lot of save points probably. So there's not many clean sheets going around. Even Raya's getting like 1 point, 0.1 point. So no
So
big deal.
true. All right, let's transition. Let's talk about that heavyweight fight, the marquee match of the weekend. That saw Liverpool travel to Arsenal. And listen, this was such a big match that they had to send Ronald McDonald, the bald clown himself, Anthony Taylor, to officiate the match. And he showed up with his usual main character energy. I saw altogether way too much of him on the damn broadcast. Fuck that guy. He stinks.
Just fuck all the referees in England, man. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the
It's
complaints. I'm tired
unacceptable.
of it. Is. I don't know why England just has terrible refereeing consistently when the rest of the world doesn't seem to. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why VAR takes so long. I don't know why they're constantly changing decisions. I don't know why they're all prima donnas who have to be center stage. I really just don't get it. I don't know.
Not enough rain to them for them to wet their beaks in England, that's for sure. But speaking of dropping it low and hitting the Dougie, that's what Saka made and Andrew Robertson do. I think in the first 10 minutes there, he had him picking up his wallet, his loose change. He was picking his ass up off the pitch as he watched Saka go right by him and blast it into the back of the net. After there was some doubt whether Saka would be fit to start, he right away looked much fitter than Robertson, and he proved that he was able to be playing in a real way. He ends up with 9 points, a goal, and 2 bonus points here.
Yeah, I need 10 seconds of therapy here, Bux, because let me explain to you what happened to me here. So I had a
Oh
hospital
no.
appointment on Friday during the deadline, so I knew I would miss the deadline, so I had to make my transfers early. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Saka was supposed to be out or very, very doubtful, so I did Saka to Son because I wanted Son for the next 3 games. Because Son didn't play, I had Andy Robertson subbing on for Hwang Min Son. So you can imagine how pissed I was when Robertson fell on his ass and Saka scored that goal to wipe my double clean sheet, and for Saka, the player I substituted out, to get the goal. Ugh. There's my
That's so
therapy for 10
brutal.
seconds. It
Ah,
is.
that's disgraceful, but it's also not on you. I think, we live here in the States and they're figuring out policies in the NFL and they're starting to do so in the NBA as well to clamp down on some of these mysterious injuries and some gamesmanship from the leadership of these clubs. And I think that it should be punishable by a fine to these clubs if
I
they're
think so.
saying that a player is out or that he might not be fit, And then all of a sudden they rock up to the match. They're right into the starting 11 and they look like there's no issue whatsoever. So I think that needs to be investigated, to be honest. But what doesn't need to be investigated is Salah in these big matches. Because in that second half, he did the business once again. He gets the equalizer, ends up with the goal and 3 bonus points for 10 points. But on the flip side, his partner, the captain of Liverpool, needs to be investigated because Virgil van Dijk had himself a journey in this match. He gets a goal. Now, he also keeps Marino onside for the Arsenal go-ahead goal. And then at one point in the match, he was just donkey kicking Havertz with the back of his studs. Looked like he took 2 different cheap shots at the player. The ref didn't get involved. The VAR didn't get involved in that, but they did get involved in the Manchester United West Ham match. Make it make sense for me, Blackwolf. Talk to me here.
Yeah, I don't understand how that's not a red card. I really don't. I mean, I know it was kind of soft. I know that it didn't actually hurt Havertz, but the intention was there. He kicked him twice. I've seen
Kicked him twice with his studs. Yeah, that's a dangerous play.
I've seen red cards given for less than that. I remember a couple of seasons ago, you had Son, who was on the floor and he just like kicked out with his foot, hit the guy on the shin pad. It didn't hurt at all, but it was, he was being aggressive, so he got the red card. Virgil van Dijk clearly kicks this guy twice out of anger. He's not doing it to be playful. So red card all day long.
Completely agree with you. And we should just give a mention to Gabriel, who goes off injured. And this is so painful and so brutal because it looks like it could be a nasty one. It could be a muscle injury. Initial reports say it's an MCL. That might mean he's out for 3 to 4 weeks, kind of best case scenario. Worst case scenario, we might not see him until the new year. And that could have real disastrous knock-on effects for Arsenal, who are going through a bad bit of injury luck right now. They now have Odegaard out. They now have Gabriel out. They already were out Calafiori. It's starting to get a little tight there in their reserves.
Yep. One thing we can be sure of, though, is that when Arteta has his press conference, that he's going to be completely honest about when Gabriel is back. Isn't that the truth?
I was going to say, Gabriel, he's been featured on the grass, and we're hopeful is what we're going to hear. And what that means is that he's 6 feet underground being buried in some rehab center trying to get him back fit.
Arteta is a pathological liar. Even after the game, he said, I'm not sure what the injury is. It might be his knee. It might be his ankle. The guy is sitting on the bench with an ice pack on his knee.
God, he's the worst.
Come on, dude.
That they deserve all the shithouse that they are giving out to get back. I know that as a Chelsea fan who really came into his fandom in a big way under Mourinho. You can't have it just one way street. So if you're going to be, playing 4 center backs and playing really physical and living on the edge, sometimes you step over it, you get a red card, or even the coach. He's a little bit of a fuck around, find out energy about him, doesn't he?
Definitely. How about we go to our next break?
Yeah, I agree. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll fast forward to preview the action for game week 10. And we're back. Let's dive in to preview the action in game week 10, starting with the best matches to target for FPL hauls. Where should we go first, Dan?
How about we start at Man City at Bournemouth? So here's a good one because I know a lot of people in the FPL community on X are thinking of taking out Haaland this week in order to be able to afford Mohamed Salah. Now, for me, I'm not really thinking about that at all. I think Haaland away to Bournemouth. I don't think Haaland is suddenly a bad asset because he got 1 goal against Southampton. If he'd have buried 2 more of those chances, he'd have come away with a hat-trick, and loads of people would have been bringing him in that don't own him. I still think he's an elite asset. I still think he's going to score a fuckload of goals. So he's going to be my captain this week. I think it's a great game for him and Man City.
I agree. I'm tempted to sell Foden just because right now he's not getting the points like he was last season. However, when I rewatched the highlights from that match against Southampton, he did have 5 big chances created and he was playing in exactly the positions that I bought him to play in, which is centrally at the heart of all their actions going forward. So I think Man City, I think they comfortably have enough to win this game. But I actually think that if we're looking at it on paper, of course, you'd rather have the home team, which is going to be Liverpool in the next match we talk about. But I don't think there's enough in there to use two transfers. I definitely would not be taking a hit. So unless you're on wild card, I think sticking with Haaland is probably an okay move. I'll also probably likely have Haaland captain. I think Man City have enough to win this 3-1. What do you think?
Yeah, I can see Bournemouth scoring for sure, but I think it's a great fixture for Foden even. I wouldn't be surprised if Foden comes away from this game with loads and loads of points, and a bunch of people have sold him because he hasn't looked that great and because his minutes haven't been great. I think in the long term, perhaps he's not great anymore until we finally see him back to how he was. But I wouldn't take him out before this game. Yeah, and I'm going to predict, I would say 3-1 too.
A consensus on the podcast. Let's go to the next match. Brighton travel to Anfield. And again, Brighton, they're a hard team to predict. You never know what lineup you're going to get. But one thing we do know is that they will be without their captain, the rock of their defense, Lewis Dunk. And so I'm expecting Mo Salah, Afro or not, I think he's going to come and be motivated to dunk all over the Seagulls. I think this could get ugly. I think this could be 3, maybe even 4-1 to the hosts. What are you seeing here?
I see goals in this game. Again, I hate to say it because I might have to go into this game with double Liverpool defense, but I see both teams scoring here. And I'm going to be really, really controversial here. I'm going to say Brighton to win 2-1.
Wow. Even without one of their best players. I don't know if I would go that far. I think maybe you're just being a little butthurt right now, but
I just want to have a bit of fun, and I got a feeling that there's going to be an upset somewhere this weekend. Why not this
I
game?
can see that. I can see that. I think Welbeck will be extremely motivated and he's in great form. So I think Brighton make this a test. I don't think it's going to be such a walk in the park for Liverpool, but they've been very clinical and they've been very solid this season. I think they have enough to win it, but again, I agree with you. I think both teams will get on the score sheet in this match.
Yeah, you're gonna have Matoma against those fullbacks. There's
Yeah.
going to be a goal for Brighton there for sure.
All right, let's switch gears. Let's get motored up and get moving down the highway here towards the best matches in real life. Now, I've called out 3 matches, but I actually think that the slate of games in Game Week 10 is wildly entertaining. I think there's a lot of even matches, there's some derbies. This will be a hugely consequential week for a lot of teams in the Premier League, not just the ones we have in focus here. So, where should we start?
Yeah, good luck to anyone playing any kind of predictor game this weekend because there's a lot of games that are difficult to call. I mean, the
So
first one
true.
you have is Arsenal playing Newcastle at St James's Park. I wouldn't be surprised if that's where the upset is and Newcastle get a victory there, especially if Gabriel is out. I don't
Agreed.
know about this game. I think it will be a draw.
That's what I think. What do you think? Multiple goals or maybe just one each?
1-1.
All right. I was a little more spicy meatball. I think it's going to be 2-2, but I actually think that Newcastle will probably be allowed to be in the driver's seat this match. I think Arteta will let them have some of the ball. They'll be at home. But I think this, especially with the injuries in the Arsenal team, this is a much more even match than you would predict based on where they are in the standings and where they are in form. So, yeah, I think 2-2. I don't like it for Alexander Isak per se, but he is kind of the only guy who's getting goals right now. Him or Harvey Barnes have to get the goals if Newcastle are going to get him. So, in that way, I don't hate it.
Yeah, and then next up you have Aston Villa playing Tottenham. I mean, that's another one that could go either way. You have 2 very good attacks here and 2 very poor defenses. I mean, I say good attack. Tottenham didn't look good last game, but they still have a very good attack, especially if Heung-min Son is back. I could also see a bunch of goals in this game. Like a 2-2 is what I'm going for.
So, I think this all hinges on whether Son is fit and
Yes.
whether he's starting. Because I was absolutely not impressed. I was actually extremely concerned for Spurs based on what I saw that last match against Crystal Palace. Now, Crystal Palace have been woeful to start this season, and they actually held and put Spurs to the sword in that match, which I definitely did not predict. Neither did my wager. My wager went completely tits up on this one. I think Villa, they're a team in great form. I mean, it doesn't feel like it because they keep conceding these silly goals, but they're top of the Champions League. They're near the top of the Premier League. I think they have enough. 3-2 to the visitors. They upset Spurs. I think this is going to be a great watch for neutrals. Maybe less so for the teams involved.
Yeah, I agree. And then finally, we have Chelsea playing United at Old Trafford. I still think that's going to be a comfortable Chelsea win.
I like that prediction. I like it a lot. I think it's going to be 4-2 to the visitors. There's going to
Wow,
be
6
tons of
goals.
goals. I mean, Chelsea never play boring matches these days, but I just feel like this match has Cole Palmer just shitting on the new manager written all over it. He couldn't be bothered to even learn any of the players' names in that Manchester United squad. This guy's confidence is just on 100 freaking million. So I think he gets a good return here, and I think Chelsea have enough to win.
I agree. I'm more concerned about the fact that you think Manchester United can score 2 goals when they've only scored 8 goals all season. Maybe it's the new manager.
I'm being
bounce.
generous. New manager bounce. Maybe Marcus Rashford actually shows up to this game. He's
Yeah.
not just cuddling with his girlfriend watching Netflix on the bench somewhere. So yeah, I think we'll get a good showing out of United, but I just think there's levels right now between where this Chelsea team are operating and where, this team is coming out from a dark cave where they've been tortured by the bald fraud for many months on end. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to turn it around, but they definitely have the fixtures coming up in short order to make that turnaround happen. All right, let's transition. Let's go to the mailbags section of this podcast. We got some great submissions from the hashtag FPL community on X and on our socials. So let's start going through some of them. Let's see if we can give our perspective to help managers around the community. Let's start with FPL Masala. That's Nihal. He's asking about time for Haaland. Can his points be compensated across other premiums, specifically the 3 midfield spots? Shout out to Sonia Kukler. She's a new mom, big Manchester United fan. She's also wondering if she can swerve the big guy in blue and the wrong Manchester team. So, Dan, why don't you start this out? Are you using free transfers to get rid of Haaland and then bring him back in? Or you think this is only for managers spoiled for free transfers or still with their wild card?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to answer this question without sitting on the fence because I genuinely believe that both routes are really good options. I wouldn't take a hit for sure to take out Haaland. If you're someone with just 1 free transfer or 2 free transfers, I wouldn't use them to swap out Haaland. If you have luxury transfers, then sure, why not? Especially if you're planning on captaining Mo Salah this weekend. I think it all comes down to the structure of your team and your plans for captaincy. Because it's very possible that Salah blanks this weekend and Haaland gets a hat trick. It could easily happen. We just don't know. It's completely fucking random, this game. So go with your gut on this one.
I agree. And I think I would only really be making the swap if I already had another premium midfielder in place. So, right, I wouldn't want to just swap Haaland for Salah and kind of have the rest of the team, like, just bring in a decent forward in the spot and then you have Salah. I'd much rather do it if I already had Palmer or if I already had Saka. So I think this is very team dependent. I'm not going to shame you for fence sitting here. I'm maturing slowly but surely, Dan. But I think for me, my play style, I like having Haaland. I think he's like a security blanket. He does always get good chances. Even when Man City are not in great form, the guy seems to find his way onto the ball in a goal scoring chance position. So I'm not going to make the move. But if I could get Palmer, I would definitely be tempted to move off a player like Son or a player like even Foden, who I have in my situation. And I wouldn't be opposed to downgrading another position. Maybe it's Gabriel, maybe it's Solanke to fund that kind of move. So I know that's not really answering the question, but I just wanted to give full perspective.
I mean, you're right though. If taking Haaland out is your route to get multiple midfield premiums, like maybe you want Son for Ipswich, maybe you also want Saka in place, maybe you want Palmer in place for 12, then it makes sense to take Haaland out. So I really think there's multiple options here. But if you do that, you're probably also not going to own Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I know some people are still very high on him and still want him in their team. That's what I love about I know I'm having a terrible season, but what I love about FPL this year is I think there's just so many routes to points, so many different strategies that all are going to work. And I think you're riding on luck more than ever this season. So if you want Mo Salah as a captain and Haaland out is your only way to get him, go for it. Why not?
Completely agree. Let's go to next question. We already glowed him up. We gave him some glazing earlier in the episode. That's FPL Hunt, aka Connor. He's asking about whether it's worth considering Solanke out, even with the good fixtures that Tottenham have coming up. And then he's asking, is Darwin an option? And should we be shifting our focus to go threemium long term with cheap forwards and defense, or just go twomium in midfield with Trent and maybe an expensive forward like Haaland, or maybe an expensive option like Watkins or Isak filling that role? This is a complex question. I don't know if I did it justice with my reading skills, but why don't you take the first stab at it, Dan?
I mean, the first one for me, I think, again, it's kind of similar to the last question. If taking Solanke out is your route to get another premium, maybe taking Solanke out and bringing him down to a Strand Larsen or someone like that allows you to get Palmer or Son or Saka or Salah as well as Haaland in your team, so you can have Salah and Haaland, then I would absolutely do it. But I wouldn't take Solanke out for any other reason, just because he's had a few terrible games. Because he's got Aston Villa at home, I think is a good fixture. I think then he's got like Ipswich coming up and a couple of other good fixtures. So I would just hold him for now, unless he's your route to get Haaland and another premium midfielder. That's my opinion.
All right, so I'm going to just cut the line here because I'm one of the co-hosts, so I can do whatever the hell I want. And I'm going to ask you a very specific question. So if you had Foden and Solanke and basically no extra budget, would you go early with your moves to go towards an option like Palmer and Vissa? You don't need to know anything else about the team. Would you rather have Palmer and Wissa, or would you rather have Foden and Solanke, knowing what we know at this point in time going into game week 10?
Long term, I'd prefer to have Palmer and Visa. I would be very nervous taking Phil Foden out before Bournemouth. I really would. I think an extra week with information will be better.
Yeah, these are the small margins that are making huge rank implications this FPL season, to say the least. I appreciate your perspective. I'm leaning the same way. I think probably there isn't enough in it if I only have 2 free transfers. But if I could do it as part of a larger move, or if I have maybe a luxury free transfer in the back pocket, the move looks much different.
If you're wasting all your transfers on that move, while it's a good move and a decent move long term, if you get any injury or any kind of news about anything, you're in my position. You're fucked for week after week after week after week. So more than ever, saving transfers is more important.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. Let's go to @chefman7979. He's asking about whether it's worthwhile to hold Spurs assets until after that Ipswich match in game week 11, or should we just stop waiting on the dream and sell now? Specifically, he's speaking about Brennan Johnson and Dominique Solanke. He has the suboptimal double up in attack right now.
I mean, we kind of just answered this question. I would answer it the same way. I would hold them unless, in particular, Solanke is your route to a premium midfielder.
I agree.
Let's go to just quickly point out before you move to the next question, just quickly, Connor asked, is Darwin an option? I want to just flat out say no right now. Absolutely not.
All right, you're pouring freezing cold ice water straight from Antarctica on the Darwin as an FPL option conversation, which I fully endorse and support. That guy stinks. He makes the bangers look easy, and he makes the tap-ins look like he's Sisyphus trying to roll the the boulder to the top of the mountain. Guy is such a bizarre player.
I mean, if we hear that Jota is out long term, I can see why people are interested, but I just think someone like Jackson is a better option if you're going to buy someone at that price point.
Dude, even if Jota is out long term, Jackson is a better option. He's just a better player. Don't slander my guy there. Come on. Next question. My Cayman fan, Matt. My Cayman fan, aka Matt, speaking is not doing me any justice today. He's asking, what's the lowest rank either of us have ever been by game week 10 in a season where we finished 100K or better? You know this offhand?
I don't know it offhand, but I think Matt is bringing up this question. Maybe he's having a terrible start to the season like me, and we're kind of concerned, oh crap, can we still get that top 100K? I think top 100K is still possible no matter what position you're in. If you're down in the 3 millions, 4 millions like me, I think the dream of like a top 10K is slipping away. But I still think top 100K is very, very possible, especially if you have chips. So I wouldn't worry about this right now. I really wouldn't.
My honest take is that more and more as I play FPL for longer, I don't think rank matters in the first half of the season. Now, I have seen crazy things happen where we had a manager last season who was around like 3.5 million. They had a number of really good decisions towards the end of the season. They finished inside the top 100K comfortably. It wasn't me. That being said, I have 4 top 100K finishes. And right now I'm comfortably in the 1 million to 2 million range in rank, but I still hold out hope. There's a lot more decisions that need to be made. There's a lot more luck that's going to come into play between now and the end of the season. So again, I wouldn't even really think about this until maybe December when the festive fixtures come around.
Yeah, think of it this way. There's 29 game weeks left, right? There are people out there that still have a second wildcard. We have that mystery chip that we don't know what is. People still have a triple captain. There's 29 game weeks. You can easily make up 100 points by just gaining, on average, like 3 or 4 points each week. So if you beat the average by 3 or 4 points each week for the rest of the season, your rank's going to go up. So it's still possible.
It's keep dreaming, Matt. But I have to say, for as bad as some of my pronunciation and English word speaking has been tonight, that math, Dan, that had me really concerned for your safety.
Hey, that math checks out.
You had to triple check it yourself. You were so unsure. I love it. Now
checks out.
let's go to the last question from Graham Atwell. He's one of the lads down under who's going to be meeting up with Brian. And he's asking how many espresso martinis is a good amount so that mini league mates Brian, Kev, Uzi, and I can stay awake for the games this weekend from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Sydney time. Now, as a quick caveat, I think all the local lads took Monday off work to be able to really celebrate to the highest level with Brian. So, Graham, as a friend, I'm going to say maybe you don't drink as many so you can be half asleep by the end of that Manchester United Chelsea game as we're battering you guys left, right, and center. But for everyone else, how about 4 espresso martinis? That sounds like a good target. What say you, Dan?
I mean, like I said at the beginning of the pod, I think 5 is a good number. And I think Brian should pay for them all because of his gloating and great start to the season. I think he should celebrate by buying everyone martinis.
All right, if my math can check out, that sounds like 25 espresso martinis at minimum on the Chinternational Man of Mysteries bar tab on early Monday morning, late Sunday night. I really hate that for you, Graham, that you're getting free drinks on the pod. And I really love that for you, Brian, that you get to buy everyone drinks at this bar in the middle of the night.
By the way, he has one more question there. He says, who is the best defensive asset who is sub 5 million? It's Ryan Aitneri.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
There are no good options. I think, honestly, it might be Aina from Nottingham Forest. He's not a sexy player. He's not going to get a lot of attacking returns. But Forest just might be the best defense with cheap options. So I think he's one for the watch list. Let's take our final break. When we come back, we'll get down and dirty with our transfer plans and captaincy shouts.
And we're back. Let's start off with Brian, since he's missing. He has 3 free transfers, and he's currently thinking of using at least 2 of those to take out Haaland, so he can bring in Salah captain. So he's currently looking at Haaland and Morgan Rogers out for Salah captain and Mateus Cunha. He thinks he can deal with problems such as Gabriel and Dominic Calvin-Lewin later. So that's kind of touching on all the questions we had earlier. He's taking out 2 very good players, Haaland and Rogers, and swapping them for Salah and Cunha. That could be a huge swing either way. And there's no obvious answer. So go for it, Brian, if you want to.
Go for it. I think that's a nice high upside move. It doesn't fit my team structure, and I think probably glaring problems are pretty obvious in DCL and Gabriel, who's going to be out missing. But listen, he's spoiled for free transfers and he's spoiled for choice right now. So I can't tell the rich man how to spend his hard-earned free transfers here. I can tell him how to spend his hard-earned money on drinks at the bar, but that's where my powers of persuasion really end. Let's go to you, Dan. What's the plan this week? How many transfers we got? Any money in the bank? And who's going to be your captain?
I mean, I could spend 20 minutes talking about my disaster of a team, Bux. I have 1 free transfer. I have no money in the bank. I have Greaves out for Ipswich. I still have Minter, who's probably start for Brighton. I have Gabriel, who's probably out for Arsenal. So my defense is currently Trent Alexander-Arnold, Rico Lewis, and Andy Robertson. So there's genuinely a chance. There's a world out there where I go into this game week with 1 starting defender. Because Andy Robertson could get benched after that performance. Rico Lewis could get benched anytime because it's Pep. There's a chance I go in here with 1 game week, with 1 defender, but I think I just have to risk it. I have no options.
Yeah, I think you roll. I think in defense you roll.
I need to roll. I'm going to do everything in my power to try and roll this week so I can get 2 free transfers next week. I think the only thing that will sway me not to roll is if we find out Son is definitely out, or if we hear anything about Andy Robertson or Rico Lewis not starting. Then I think I might actually take a hit.
Wow, join the Bucks Wild Hits Brigade. Who's going to be your captain? Haaland, easy does it?
Yeah, easy. Haaland. I think he's going to finally get a brace.
Oh, I like that. Okay. I will have 2 free transfers. I have some funds in the bank, not a significant amount. I'm looking at, 0.1 million, should be 0.2 million after tonight. Who cares? I'm going to be rolling my transfer. I am intrigued about doing like a Foden and Solanke or a Foden and Gabriel swap. It just feels like it's at least 1 game week too early. And I did just make the decision to bring in Foden and Solanke for a hit, where I was, as an alternative reality, looking at Palmer and Vissa. So I already made my bet a little bit. So it just feels so silly to reverse that with 2 free transfers after taking the hit. So I just have to practice a little bit of patience, which is not in my DNA. So I'm going to roll. Want to have 3 free transfers. I want to at least have 2 going into game week 12. I feel that will be important. Haaland right now has the armband, but right before we got on the podcast, Dan, I was tempted to switch it to evil Brian and Bomo. They play in the bonus fixture this week, so they'll be the last match. I kind of don't hate that. So I'm a little tempted to lock that in, but I'll be fence sitting on that. I'll probably have like 6 drafts with Haaland cap, 6 with Mbomo. Who knows where it ends up shaking out at the end of the game week.
It'll be great content for the pod next week, especially if Paz is on it and you have Brian Mbumo as captain. So I think you should do it.
Don't tempt me with a good time, and don't tempt me with promise of the glaze hole himself, Paz, coming on this podcast next week, because he'll probably come into Monday, be like, guys, I'm so excited to record with you legends, only for it to be 15 minutes. I'm still on the floor of my daughter's room doing bedtime. He's like, sorry, guys, I'm going to 11 for a, fun nightclub in Miami to party my socks off without you guys. Screw you. Golly. No respect.
Nope.
Get us out of here, Dan.
Well, I think that was a fun pod, Bux. I think let's end it there. You can find us on social media at FPLUSA Press Play. You can find me on X at FPL_Blackwolf. And Brian is at FPLUSA Brian. Bux is at FPLUSA Bux. And we wish you all green arrows this week.
Green arrows,
Especially
good
me.
mental health, and good FPL watches. Golly, less refs, more goals. Let's see
Yes.
that in game week 10. Jeez.
Absolutely.
All right, great pod, Dan. This has been fun. Thanks, everyone.